Hello and welcome to the next module on the meal planning masterclass. So today we're going to be focusing on the numbers. We're going to be dialing those numbers in and making sure everything is individualized for you. So this is the thing when it comes to nutrition. There's lots of blanket recommendations. You should have this diet. Everybody should consume this many calories or this macronutrient ratio or whatever it is. And nutrition simply doesn't work like that. Everybody's an individual. Everyone's got individual preferences. Everybody's got individual data and numbers that they need to hit. And everybody has individual exercise regimes, for example. So some people are going to be working out regularly, some people less so. Some people are very active, some people less so. And we need to make sure everything's tailored for you. So obviously you've watched the introduction module already and you understand the importance of meal planning. And we're going to go through the fundamental steps to get that set up to begin with. Let's jump right in. So when it comes to meal planning, there's two sets of numbers that we're going to be focused on. So we've stripped everything out as much as possible to keep it as concise and as simple and as easy to implement as physically possible along this meal planning masterclass. So obviously complication is the enemy of implementation. We want to keep it nice and simple. However, we're also going to make sure, like we mentioned a second ago, that it's going to be as personalized to you as an individual as possible. So we're going to be figuring out those numbers. So the calories per day. And number two, the recommended protein per day. So once we know those numbers over the course of the week, we're going to be breaking those numbers down to fit your personal preferences and also your exercise needs as well. Because like we said earlier, some people are going to be working out 2 times per week. Some 3 times per week, 4 or 5 times per week for others. So we really do need to make sure that your nutrition is matching everybody's individual situations. So step one, we're going to be taking a look at calculating your daily calorie targets. So this website that we've just shown at the top here, this is a fantastic website that uses a calculation based on your age, gender, height, weight and day-to-day levels of physical activity as well. And again, it's super simple. It takes literally 10 seconds and it'll give you a result like the one seen on the right hand side there. Obviously we've just used some generic information in this particular example. You put your information here just to make sure that it's tailored to you as an individual. And on the right hand side we've got different brackets of rates of weight loss results that you're going to attempt or focus on achieving. So to maintain this individual's weight is just over 2,500 calories. Mild weight loss, just over 2,300, and so on. Now, one thing I will say is at the bottom there it says extreme weight loss, 1 kilogram per week. So this equates to about 2 pounds per week. That's absolutely not extreme weight loss. I do wish that they would change that description. However, this is not extreme weight loss. You don't have to worry. So when it comes to these recommendations, so weight loss at 0.5 kilogram per week is in and around £1 per week, just so that you're aware. Extreme weight loss or a higher rate of weight loss is £2 per week. So anywhere in and around those brackets will be absolutely fine for you as an individual. So once we have those daily calorie targets, you've already got those numbers. We're going to be taking a look at calculating your daily protein target estimates. So to begin with, we just need to know your body weight in kilograms. So once you have that, we multiply your body weight in kilograms by between 1.2 and 1.8. So that's quite a spectrum between 1.2 and 1.8. And how do we know where to place yourself on that within that range? So we just take a look at your current training intensity, frequency, duration, and just to decide where you best fit on that scale. So for example, if you're training twice a week, they're quite steady sessions. You know, the duration, you're not training for an hour and a half or anything like that. They might be just steady 20, 30-minute sessions. It might be best to place yourself around the 1.2, 1.3 mark. If, for example, you're training 5 or 6 times a week and they're intense, you're really, really sweating during those sessions, you're working out very, very hard, you're going to need a much higher rate of recovery. So when it comes to the protein to support that, we go up towards the top end of that range. So you might be placed in and around 1.7, 1.8. If you're somewhere in the middle, of course, it'd come out in around 1.4, 1.5. So now you have your daily protein target intake. So for example, if just to make that, just for pure ease of maths, if let's say, for example, you were an individual was 100 kilograms, we multiply that by 1.4 because they're somewhere in the middle. They do 3 or 4 sessions a week, relatively intense, but they're not training like a semi-pro athlete or anything like that. That would come out at 140 grams per day. So now we have your protein targets in grams. The next step really is to make sure that we're spreading those numbers across the day. So you need to decide what's going to best fit for you as an individual, meal frequency wise. So some people do, for example, I suppose a form of intermittent fasting where they only have 2 meals per day, but they're quite large meals. So that might be 2 meals per day. A lot of people have 3 or 4 meals per day. So for example, if you're having 4 meals per day, that might look like breakfast, lunch, an evening meal, and maybe a snack at some point throughout the day as well. And of course, some people have 5 meals per day as well. So I just wanted to give you an example of exactly how this is broken down across a snapshot of one day based on your preference of meal frequency. So let's say we've already got those numbers that we've just worked out earlier on. We know this individual needs 1,700 calories per day and 130 grams of protein per day. So the meal frequency is entirely up to you. There's no real right or wrong here. And as you can see, we've broken it down in that graph. So the calories per meal for over 2 meals per day is 850 calories and 65 grams of protein per meal. So now you know those numbers. So each of your meals are going to have to fall in and around those numbers. The same with 3 meals per day, 4 meals and 5 meals per day. And obviously we've just given you a representative example of what those numbers would look like based on these hypothetical numbers. So super simple. Let's say, for example, you wanted to go with the breakfast, lunch, evening meal and a snack section. You would say meal frequency is 4. So I now know, based on 1,700 calories per day and 130 grams of protein, that I'm going to be aiming for a 425 calories per meal and just over 30 grams of protein per meal too. So lastly, we just need to be taking a look at the numbers across the week. So you have 2 choices here. There's lots and lots of different ways of doing this, but the 2 most popular methods of choosing how to split your calories over the course of the week are, number 1, version 1 is having calorie peaks on the days that you're working out. So I don't know about you, but when it comes to working out, my hunger levels go sky high after the session. Other people don't. So it's very much an individual thing. Again, just to reiterate, there's no right or wrong on this, but it's down to fitting your individual preferences. So I know how my body responds and hunger levels respond. That let's say if I trained like it said in the graph here, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, let's say they're my workout days. In calories version 1, I'm going to have 2,000 calories on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, just so that we've got a nice peak in calories on the days that I'm working out. If I am a bit hungry, fantastic. And also it can potentially further facilitate your recovery too. So again, just remember this is based on 1,700 calories per day. So calories version number 2 is exactly that, 1,700 calories per day. And it's not peaking on the days that you have exercise sessions. So the averages of both of these versions are still 1,700 calories per day. So as you can see in calories version 1, where you're peaking the calories on the workout days, on the non-workout days, they're reduced a little bit to compensate for that. So again, this just matches my personal hunger levels, or somebody whose hunger levels peak on exercise days, particularly in the hours after exercise. You pick a method that's best for you, and you obviously with your numbers, so if it's 1,500 calories per day, we'll just make sure that it's spread out throughout the week in calories version 2 or calories version 1. Just have little, an extra few hundred on the days that you're working out, and obviously a reduction on the days that you're not. Nice and simple. So to summarize, we now know that your calorie numbers and your calorie targets per day. We now know your daily protein targets per day. We also know how to break those numbers down into a daily meal frequency. So if you're consuming food or meals twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 or 5 times a day, we just divide that number, that daily number, by however many meals you're going to be consuming, and it keeps it nice and simple. Over the course of the week, of course, we just need to match up your calorie intakes in and around your exercise requirements. So obviously, if, like we said earlier on, if you're exercising on certain days and you get hungry on those days, we just have a little calorie peak on those days just to help compensate for that. And then on your rest days, there's a little bit of a reduction, again, just to compensate and make sure that the average is exactly where it needs to be. So just to reiterate, everybody's completely different. Some people work out and there's absolutely no difference whatsoever to their hunger levels, in which case it might be better, more preferable for you as an individual to make sure that those calories are average with no real peaks throughout the week on any days. Again, like we said earlier on, me personally, I'd much prefer to have a calorie peak on the days that I work out, because for the hour, 2 hours after my workout, I'm much more hungry than I would have been if I hadn't have worked out. So now you can have those calorie peaks, but still keep in line with those numbers over the week, so that you're still making sure that you're having consistent weight loss week in, week out, but also not feeling too hungry after your workouts if you're that type of individual. So again, these simple strategies, they're really nice and simple. Please don't overthink it. We just need to follow the guidance that you've been set out. And I'm really, really looking forward to making sure that on the next module, we're going to be guiding you through creating your specific meal plan. We're also going to be giving you example daily meal plans just for guidance purposes. Like we said, it's pointless just sharing a meal plan with you because your numbers might be different, your protein targets might be different, your amounts of workouts that you do each week are going to be different to another person's. So we can't give any blanket statements or blanket recommendations, of course. However, we will be giving you examples just purely as a diagram's purpose, just so that you can see in real terms what a meal plan at XYZ calories looks like at XYZ levels of protein intake per day. I think that's going to be really useful for you, just as a little foundational start point to be able to construct your own. We're also going to finish off with some top tips for habits, for consistency, because like we said earlier on in the modules, weight loss is a long-term thing. So we're going to need to make sure that we have the habits set up that are conducive to long-term consistency week in, week out. So again, if we just take a look at that in real terms, let's say right at the very beginning, you've set your weight loss results at 2 pounds per week. It might not sound like a lot, but when you sprinkle that element of consistency in there, let's say you stay consistent over the next 20 weeks, that's an unbelievable result. You've lost 40 pounds. You might not even need to lose that much weight, but because you've sprinkled that consistency and coupled it with those consistency habits week in, week out, you've actually generated a massive result of £40 loss in 20 weeks. It doesn't have to be that higher rate either. You know, some people might feel a bit too hungry at that. You might want to drop it down to £1 per week. But again, when we take a step back on the grand scheme of things and we want you set up for decades to come, whether it takes 20 weeks or 30 weeks or 40 weeks for you to hit your weight loss results, it really pales into insignificance in comparison to being set up for the rest of your life. So again, consistency absolutely needs to be prioritized, and we're going to go through all of these steps and basically get all of those results dialed in, week out. So hopefully you've thoroughly enjoyed this next installment on the meal planning masterclass. I'm really looking forward to catching up with you on the next module, and let's get those results dialed in. See you on the next step.